yeah.
Yeah, no, you never found those bolts that Chris Morris had put up when he was doing routes up there a few years before you guys, did you?
I've never found them, but I've heard about other people seeing them, and I'm pretty sure that this big white scar here
Here?
is the no, sorry, the smaller one. I don't know if you can see my mouse further left.
Down there?
I think, yeah, up above there, you can actually see where it hit the screen. I think that might be the one that came down and scared him off.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that for sure.
Somewhere over in this area.
Yeah, just up to the right there.
Okay.
Yeah, right in there.
Oh, okay.
But what I found too with a lot of those, like those areas, because there's so much trees up above, is the roots of the trees go down and get into the cracks of rocks and cause like a lot more loosening. So I really kind of wanted to get into the zone that had no trees. And also it seemed, I don't know too much about the geology terms, but seems like the band of rock right at about this elevation kind of changes.
Yeah.
And then there's this big kind of dark rock here to the left of this big white section. So that was kind of the main area that I was aiming for. Of course, when you're just looking at the two-dimensional thing from down below, you don't know quite what the fall line is going to be. So you hike around to the top and put in some anchors and try to aim for something down below, but you don't always end up exactly where you want at the bottom.
So that's how you originally explored the area, was walking all the way up and then wrapping down and checking it out?
Yeah, we went all the way up and then did an original wrap off the tree. Okay, yeah, here. So basically on animism. So this top part here, eventually we could maybe finish it more of a direct. It was super cruxy though, which is why the last pitch is the traverse. Okay. But right above it was kind of this drainage that we came down and just put in a wrap route. And then the first, which
was it overhanging enough you had to worry about getting back to the wall and have that bit of nervousness, or did you sort of say, we can get in?
Yeah, I mean, there's overhanging parts, but there's also enough ledges. So this lonely anchor over here, that was part of the original wrap route, and then came down over here, and this is kind of a big ledge that I was able to walk across, and Grissax here was the first route I would have top roped and then came back and bolted.
Okay.
But because this whole section on this diagonal is super loose, it wasn't the best place to link up the multi-pitch. So that's why the multi-pitch ended up linking up over there above Farrington Flies. So yeah, I would just go and, do the wrap route and sometimes just clean. And then when I could get a belay partner, get lowered in and do top roping, and did a bunch of cleaning and top roping until we kind of figured out the best place to put the multi-pitch in, which was the original intent. But then when I kind of realized down below, like there's enough quality slab here to actually make a little crag. And now at this point, we actually got 13 individual pitches. There's a couple that aren't on there. That's the older lines, but so yeah.
So if someone heads off to this area, like imagine you're doing, okay, here, friend, you want to head up to goat herders. What would you suggest? Like, what should they start off with? And what is the type of climbing like?
Well, it's a lot of technical slab climbing with like some real trickery involved. So some people are into it, but I know people that are like, solid 5'11" climbers, but they don't like slab, and I've seen them bail off some of these routes here, and it really hurts their ego. I think they say, I got to practice slab and come back, but some of them, they've never came back.
Yeah. Well, that's why I love Stonehill, is it's so technical, and being an old guy who's fat, I don't have to worry about being strong. Just it gets easier, those slabs.
Yeah. If anything, your toes and feet get more sore than your arms sometimes. But it is nice because there's still kind of, you cross this, what I kind of call the crinoid ledge here. It's this big yellow band that kind of runs across, which would have almost split these lower pitches into two.
Okay.
But the rock
And this
was
is the
so
Crockway ledge right here that my mouse is on.
sorry, down a bit lower, about halfway up the first pitch there.
Okay, so right
Yeah.
about here.
And that's a real yellow band of real porous aerated rock.
Okay.
Yeah, right in there. That, like, if you were to ever put any bolts in that rock, they would have to be glue ins. Like, I would never want to put a wedge anchor into it, which is one of the reasons that all those bottom pitches are full 35-meter length, 70-meter rope required for top roping, because most of them, the mid anchor with a good spot where a mid anchor would have been, the rock just wasn't suitable for it. So, but anyways, as you'd say, like, what I would recommend, Grisax there, which was the original pitch, that's probably 10A and maybe even a 5.9 plus. That's probably the least technical climb there, one of the easiest. And then now we actually have another one right beside Grisax, which is a little bit more technical, probably more like 10A, 10B.
And that's the climber's right?
Yeah, just the climber's right of it there. Yeah, it would kind of be behind those trees in the photo.
And it stays slabby all the way up to the top, or does it get vertical?
Yeah, it stays slabby in the top. It kind of gets into some more kind of double side pulling kind of maneuvers, smearing the feet, really high friction rock. And then the only other 10A would be down over to the left. It's almost like a bit of a different sector there. You might have to zoom the photo out.
Is that left of that corner?
Yeah, in the corner.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. Can't quite see it in the photo there, but that's Stoop Kid. That's the other 10A, which is, oh yeah, you can see it there.
Oh yeah, so it's definitely left of that right facing corner. And then you're
well, it's kind of it's its whole own right facing corner. Yeah. And that's a neat route. It's a bit more off balancey. I've had a couple people say it's their favorite route up there. Yeah, I'd say it's a 10A with only a couple of cruxes. But it's definitely off balancey. Like, there's a couple of parts that, you're not holding positive hold. So if your hands slip, or if your feet slip, I should say, you're falling. You're not going to hold yourself on with your hands. But yeah, everything else is kind of 10B, 10C.
Now, if I'm guessing, this Farrington fly, that sort of reminds me of something historical, but I can't remember if that was the person who was shot. So talk me through a little bit about the history of this, what you're referring to with some of these.
Okay, so the story of Farrington, it was Fred Farrington, and he was having his 4 a.m. dinner up on the mine tipple during the Frank slide. And so he went for a bit of a flight from the wind blast that preceded the rocks. And they found his body a quarter mile away on the western edge of the slide. So during the time that I was developing these routes, I was reading a book about the slide, and that was one of the stories that I found very interesting and thought, oh, I should name this route after him, because I mean, up there you got a very good view of the slide and Turtle Mountain. So and then as well, the route Grisax is also named after a fellow who passed in the slide, which was Andy Grisack, and he was a bit of a outfitter who lived in his tent year round. I guess he was known for telling lots of stories to the children, and anyways, he was found after the slide wrapped in his tent, gripping a cast iron frying pan. So he probably heard the sound and thought he was getting attacked and reached for his frying pan, and that was about it.
Huh. Okay. Now you like to name your routes with some history, some meaning and stuff. That's nice. Do you enjoy that with climbing, that connection with the past, or?
Yeah, I do. I enjoy the connection with the past and just kind of the constant learning as well. Like, when I'm setting a route, if I can, obviously you're learning about the climbing itself, but if you can learn something about yourself, something about the mountain, and something about the history, it's all great. Like for another example, the route Crinoidia, at the time on the ledge, I found a pretty big segment of a crinoid stem, and I had no idea what it was. I didn't know what a crinoid was, so I had to do quite a bit of research online and everything, and finally found out what it was, and I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, you're going way back in history there as one of the most prehistoric life forms, and when this area was all underwater. So
I think of that on Drywood is like you're climbing on this tropical reef, and all those things are like the coral that you're climbing on. It's kind of neat for our area.
yeah, it's super neat.
Now, animism, where does that come from?
Well, animism, that's a little bit of a different one. That's a bit more of a personal one, I guess you could say. That kind of came from just spending so much time solo on that wall, cleaning those roots and working the top ropes and kind of getting the connection to the mountain. Because like an animist is almost a type of religion where you believe that everything has its own spirit, rocks, trees, animals, and everything. So yeah, that name just kind of seemed to suit, like, for all the time that I just spent out there with the animals and the rocks.
Well, it's kind of cool. You get a connection to an area, right? Like once you start route developing, you put that first route and you're like, that's good. And then it opens another door. And then that opens another door. And I don't know about you, but you get obsessed. Like you're thinking about it. Oh, that terrain over there really needs something. It's like you got to fix it up. Or do you get obsessed like that too, Dylan?
Oh yeah, I think most route developers probably have some sort of obsessive trait for sure. And
here's
I
the little
definitely
one.
have
He's
that.
going to be on YouTube now, Dylan.
Oh, hello.
We're recording this for YouTube there, Leah.
Hi.
It's the true Zoom this session, right?
Yeah.
As long as we don't have any naked people coming behind us, we're fine.
Yeah.